What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we need to talk about some One Piece reveals that are pretty gosh darned important. And I want to start off with Icarus Much. And look, I know this might not be a character a lot of people were particularly looking forward to. That's not really the point, ladies and gentlemen. That's not really the point. The point is, he's a fish man. Why is that important? Because the other day I showed you the leader, Hody Jones. And I told you Hody Jones didn't make a huge amount of sense. And it didn't, incidentally. That leader, when we looked at it the other day, did not make a huge amount of sense. Because it had an interesting ability that let you rest Hody Jones, your leader, and then rest one of your opponent's free cost or lower characters, which is pretty decent, but not stunning. And then it said that essentially for the rest of the turn you can't add cards from your life to your hand through your own effects. Or you could also rest one of their Don instead of one of their free cost or less characters, I should say. So a decent skill, but then we had this second half that said you couldn't add your life to your hand using your skills, which made no sense, because when we looked at this the other day, at that time, there was not a single revealed green card that could add life to your hand. It was a pointless skill. And I told you when we looked at this the other day that more was coming, that we were going to see some cards in this set that did add life to your hand. And we had to. It wasn't some great prediction. We had to have that, because otherwise the card made no sense. Well, in comes Icarus Much, and this one now makes perfect sense. 5 cost, 6,000 power, counter plus 1,000, and we've got a skill on play. If your leader's type is New Fishman Pirates, play up to a 1 4 cost or lower Fishman character card from your hand, and then add the top card of your life to your hand. So when you play this 5 cost, you can then also play a 4 cost from your hand, or lower, but you have to add a life to your hand. And on the one hand, adding a life to your hand is alright, because you're getting a card advantage there, you are at least gaining a card in your hand, but on the other hand, you're picking up a life, and that's a little bit of a pain. And this is what I suspected was going to be the case with Hody Jones, and that is seemingly the case here. Essentially, what we're going to get, and I am just telling you now, there is, as far as I'm concerned, and obviously I could be wrong about this, but as far as I'm concerned, there's no chance this is going to be the last one we see. We're going to get a bunch of fishmen, and they're going to be like, hey, here's a good skill. But you've actually got to add a card from your life to your hand, and then you can't use too many of those skills, because then you add all your life to your hand, you lose the game. Or at least you lose your game when your opponent gets an attack through. Whereas with Hody Jones, your leader, well, you can add a life to your hand. So it goes like this. You play Icarus Much here, and you go, oh, my leader is a New Fishman Pirates. Yay, I get to play a 4 cost or lower Fishman character from my hand, whoop whoop, etc. Oh, but I can't add the top card of my life to my hand because I've used a skill on Hody Jones. Now, here's the thing. The way Hody Jones is written, it says, you may rest this leader and then rest one of your opponent's 3 cost or lower characters or one of their Don. After that, during this turn, you cannot add life cards to your hand for your own effects. It literally says after that. What that means is your protection from adding cards from your life to your hand only kicks in after you use Hody Jones's skill. So if you want to add a life to your hand to get the card advantage, or maybe to lower your life to activate a skill on some future card or whatever, you can do that by playing the card before you activate Hody Jones's ability. If you don't want to add a life card to your hand, then use Hody Jones's ability and then play this card. And that is why I really like this, because you get the option of either adding the card from your life to your hand, which you want to do, or activating the skill so that you don't. It's not a you always do or you always don't. You have the choice of activating this skill, which will then block you from adding cards from your life to your hand, so you can play a card like this and then not end up having to take a life. I like it. This is really, really good. And I suspect this is going to be a theme. I mean, if you look at the way the leader's worded, you don't put a skill like that unless there's a very, very good reason for doing so. I mean, take Newgate, for instance. You know, we've got the 9-cost Edward Newgate, which specifically says on play up to one of your leaders gains 2,000 power until the start of your next turn, then you cannot add life cards from your life area to your hand by your effects during this turn, which doesn't make a huge amount of sense until you look at the leader, which says at the end of your turn you add a card from the top of your life area to your hand. Exactly the same kind of thing here with Hody Jones. The second part of that skill doesn't make a huge amount of sense until we get a bunch of fishmen who do essentially add a card from your life to your hand as a punishment almost for these, what I assume are going to be pretty powerful effects. Certainly the first one we've seen is, and then all of a sudden this just makes sense and works, and yay. In terms of which fishmen you might want to play, remembering you can only go for green, I actually really like Chew from Op-03 because that's a 4 cost, and it's actually got a trigger that plays it for free as well, so you've got a couple different ways to play it for free. But then on play, KO up to one of your opponent's rested characters with a cost of 4 or less. But then, of course, remember that Hody Jones' ability means that you get to rest one of your opponent's characters that cost 3 or less, so essentially you rest it with Hody Jones. Then you play Icarus Much, and then while playing that, you then also play Chew for free, that then KOs the character you rested using Hody Jones, and round we go, ladies and gentlemen. Round and round we go. Big fan. This seems like a very cool card. You know what else we've got? A pair of Emporio Ivanov. Yeah, a pair of Emporio Ivanov. Let's start off with a new super rare that comes around for blue. When you play this, reveal the top card of your deck, or its free cost 4,000 power, counter plus 1,000, standard for cards that have skills. And you can play up to 1 2-cost character card, and then return the remaining card to the top or bottom of your deck, if there is one. And on the one hand, good skill. Very good skill. On the other hand, you need to stack your deck. Like, don't get me wrong, you can play this and just kind of cross your fingers. What you really need is a way to stack your deck here. That is how this is actually going to work very nicely indeed. Take something like Perona. On play, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, rearrange them in any order, and then return them to the top or bottom of your deck. So, Perona, if you've got a 2-cost character, you leave it on top of your deck. If you don't have a 2-cost character, then you put the top 5 cards of your deck on the bottom, and that doesn't guarantee that the top card remaining is going to be a 2-cost. You don't know. But it at least gives you a much bigger chance, knowing that you've taken 5 cards from the top and whacked them on the bottom. That at least gives you a decent shout for having one. Guaranteed, no, but a decent shout. There is another card we can use, which we will get to in just one moment, because there is a second skill that we've got on Emporio Ivanov here. We've got when attacking, once per turn, if you have 6 or fewer cards in hand, draw a card. Cool. That's fine. Of course, we see themes in One Piece as well as a bunch of other card games. One of the themes we see in Emporio Ivanov apparently is drawing cards. Think back to the leader from Op-02 that at the end of your turn, if you had 0 cards in hand, you got to draw 2 cards. That's the kind of thing we see from Emporio Ivanov. You get to draw a bunch of cards. Or the super rare from Op-02 that on play draws cards so that you have 3 in your hand and then play up to a blue and power down type character card for cost of 6 or less from your hand. Which actually also playing cards for free is another thing we're doing in this card as well. So we're seeing some themes from Emporio Ivanov here. Point is, for a free cost, I like this. You can play a 2-cost card for free, although again, have to stress you need to stack your deck to do so. And then when attacking, once per turn, if you have 6 or fewer cards in your hand, draw a card. It's cool. You're often going to have 6 or fewer cards in hand, play a card for free, draw a bunch. I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, this could be kind of fun. Now, there is another Emporio Ivanov, but I want to go slightly out of order here and look at Duval. What we've got here is 2-cost, 1,000 power, counter plus 1,000, and you've got blocker. Not a good blocker, admittedly, because, well, you got 1,000 power. You're not going to do great with that. It's really just a way of stopping an attack. You're going to go down, but you're going to stop an attack while you go down, so you know what? It's not the end of the world. Fine. Not particularly great. Just fine. But then we have, and I think it is actually the first Duval card we've actually seen so far, which is kind of cool. But then we've got another skill, which is kind of cool, whereby on play, look at 3 cards on the top of your deck and place them at the top or bottom of your deck in any order, which is a terrible Perona. Because obviously Perona is you look at the top 5 cards, and it's a 1 cost, not a 2 cost. So in terms of the rearranging card skill, Perona is way better than Duval. That's just an objective fact. Because you're looking at 5 cards, not 3, and it's a 1 cost, not a 2 cost. It is a better version. But Duval also has blocker, Perona doesn't have blocker, so it's a way of getting a weaker version of Perona's skill, but on a character that also has blocker. And obviously, it's going to work very nicely with a new Emporio Ivanov to try and make sure you got a 2-cost character on the top of your deck, so you can play for free. But I did promise you a second Emporio Ivanov. We've got a red coming in here as well. It's just an uncommon, although you can get a pre-release stamped one if that's what you're into. And we got 5 cost, 6,000 power, no counter. And on play, you look at the top 5 cards of your deck. Play up to 1 revolutionary type character with 5,000 power or less. And then return the remaining cards to the bottom of your deck in any order. Literally just got done telling you that Ivankov is good for playing cards for free, and then we've got another Ivankov which can play cards for free. And I made no secret of the fact, like all through the time we were talking about OPO5 and Nose Reveals, I told you I was a fan of the Revolutionary Army. I told you the Revolutionary Army was what I really liked from OPO5. I really liked Bello Betty as a leader, because you can trash a Revolutionary Army card from your hand and then give up to 3 of your Revolutionary Army characters or characters with trigger an extra 3,000 power. It's very cool. But here, if you're playing enough Revolutionary Army characters of 5,000 power or less, you can hit one off the top 3 and then you're basically playing 2 characters for 1. And this could be genuinely awesome. How about the Inazuma? It's got 4,000 power. But if you got a 7,000 power character or more other than this one, you gain Rush. That's cool. Sounds good to me. Play a Rush character for free? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, yes. Or you can get a little bit fancy and go for the OPO5 Emporio Ivanov, that then's got an activate main once per turn if this character has 7,000 power or more, i.e. boosted up with Don or with Bello Betty, and you play up to a 1 Revolutionary Army type character with 5,000 power or less other than Emporio Ivanov from your hand. Kind of similar in some ways, which is very cool. Or you can get Koala, which on play gives one of your opponent's characters minus 3,000 power. That could be quite nice. There are a bunch of decent options here. I like this very, very, very much indeed. I like Bello Betty and Revolutionary Army, and I'm still waiting to see if it's going to be a really good leader from OPO5 or not. The early results I'm seeing are that it is outclassed by Enel and Luffy, but I'm hoping, ladies and gentlemen, I am hoping. But if you're going to be playing that deck, this is clearly a very, very nice option for that deck. Just very obviously, if you're playing that deck, this is really cool. And I want to play that deck. I want to go full Revolutionary Army. So there we go. We got a new Fishman Pirate that makes Hody Jones make sense. We've got a pair of new Emporio Ivanov, and we've got a Duval as well, which is actually the first one we've seen, which is cool. But now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to hear from you guys. I want to know what you think about these cards. I want to know what you're excited about. I want to know anything you want to tell me. So let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi. That's where we talk about One Piece and a bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, join a Discord, and all kinds of fun things. But by far, the most important thing is always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wasi Plays.